All right, we're starting over here at the quarterback position with Taylor Heinicke going against that Vikings defense, ranks 23rd against opposing quarterbacks. I've said all offseason that it's only a matter of time before the Falcons move on to Heinicke as their quarterback. I mean, he is just a better quarterback. Now, that Heinicke should have plenty of opportunities to have a fantasy relevant game with Kirk Cousins, not being on the opposite side. Now, with plenty of 3-and-outs expected for the Vikings, the Falcons offense should be on the field quite a bit. People may not remember, but Heinicke has the ability to have a nice fantasy outing. He should be a really good option this week. Next quarterback we're going to talk here is about Derek Carr here, going against that Bears defense, ranks 29th against opposing quarterbacks. Now we're on to a quarterback who has really seen his share of ups and downs this season, but he's really starting to pick it up as of late. If he can continue to gel and develop chemistry with his weapons, we can provide some insane value for your roster. Now, Carr has the tools and the weapons around him to put up that crazy stat line that you're expecting, but his problem is just his consistency, probably because he doesn't have that rapport with his weapons. But even when you've had bad consistency, the Bears defense allows you to look good even on that off day. So Carr is a good play this week. Next, we're going to talk about Bryce Young going against that Colts defense, ranks 22nd against opposing quarterbacks. Here's a quarterback who has, really yet to figure out the NFL game, in my opinion. I think the game is going too fast for him right now, and he needs to take a deep breath and just focus. Bryce Young is uber talented and has a wide receiver in Adam Thielen who is more than capable of being a nice threat. Young should be able to dissect this Colts defense and come away with a performance that can get you by if you have a quarterback on bye or due to an injury. Now let's move over to the running back position. Talk about Kareem Hunt going against this Cardinals defense that ranks 30th against opposing running backs. Hunt seems to have taken the #1 running back role away from Jerome Ford. Last week, Hunt had 14 carries to Ford's 9. Now, Kareem Hunt should be getting more and more touches as the year continues, and against this Cardinals defense, it should have fantasy owners just licking at the chops. The Cardinals would have a hard time stopping a running faucet, let alone a running back. So Kareem Hunt should be a very good option this week against the Cardinals. Next running back we're going to talk here about is Rashad White versus that Texas defense that ranks 21st against opposing running backs. White is getting a ton of touches in this offense. He's even more valuable in PPR leagues due to that passing volume that you're seeing. The Texans defense can be exposed from that running back position, and with no other running back on this roster even coming close to pushing White for touches, White should fit in nicely into your winning lineup this week. Make sure White is in your lineups and enjoy the good situation that he's in. So, next running back here we're talking about is Brian Robinson Jr. going against that Patriots defense that ranks 18th against opposing running backs. Robinson Jr. should be a good play this week against this Patriots defense. So when looking at an RB2 or a flex play, you want to see that opportunity. Brian Robinson Jr. is the clear lead back on this football team, and he should see a hefty volume this week. 60 yards and a touchdown is a minimal type of expectation that I have for him this week. So if you're needing to decide on that final roster spot and you have Brian Robinson Jr. to pick from, do yourself a favor, pick Robinson Jr. You can thank me later. Let's move it right along to the wide receivers here. I'm going to talk about Brandon Cooks going against this Eagles defense that ranks dead last against opposing wide receivers. This should be a back and forth type of matchup where you see both the Cowboys and the Eagles throw the ball all over the field. Cooks has the ability to beat any cornerback pretty much in the NFL for a deep route, and against this Eagles secondary, you could be looking at a big game from Cooks. Dak Prescott needs a statement game after his roller coaster type of season that he's had thus far, and knocking off the #1 team in the NFC would surely help his case. If he's able to succeed, then Brandon Cooks will most likely be a big part of that. Cooks is a great play, in my opinion, this week. Next wide receiver we're talking about here is Nico Collins going against that Bucs defense that ranks 27th against opposing wide receivers. Collins has built great chemistry with rookie quarterback CJ Stroud this season. Collins is clear-cut #1 wide receiver for this offense, and he gets an ample amount of targets each and every week. Now, he led the team last week once again in targets, and he should be that way this week against the Bucs. I love starting wide receivers who are getting a ton of work in that passing game, and that's definitely Collins. As I say on this channel all the time, more opportunity equals more fantasy points. Start Collins this week against the Bucs. Last wide receiver I'm talking about here today is Rasheed Shahed. He's taking on that Bears defense that ranks 18th against opposing wide receivers. Shahed has been a quiet killer this season, really. I mean, Shahed has been catching bombs all season long, where he will explode with a finishing stat line that will help you win in any given week. At this point, Rasheed Shahed should never be on your bench. He is a weekly starter no matter the opponent. It just so happens that this week he goes against a Bears defense that has no chance in covering Shahed. This should be an easy choice to slot Shahed in as one of your building blocks this week. Now we move it on to the tight end position. First guy we're talking about here is Dalton Kincaid, going against that Bengals defense that ranks dead last against opposing tight ends. Kincaid has taken over for the injured Dawson Knox in fashion. He's one of 2 rookie tight ends who are making weekly contributions to your fantasy lineups. Historically, you don't really find tight ends who can come in and be effective, but Kincaid has shown time and time again that he can be a nice asset for your team. Now, Kincaid is an amazing matchup right now this week against a terrible Bengals defense that is by far the worst in covering the tight end position. This is a juicy matchup for Kincaid. Next tight end we're talking about here is Jake Ferguson, going against that Eagles defense ranks 21st against opposing tight ends. I was spot on with Ferguson last week when I recommended him, and I'm going to go ahead and recommend him again this week against this Eagles defense. I see the Cowboys throwing the ball all over the field, and it's definitely in play that Ferguson could very well just find himself in the end zone once again. This season has been really hard to find that consistent tight end, so if you find yourself on the fence really looking around this week and looking for a tight end, you should be able to acquire Ferguson pretty cheap, whether or not he's on the waiver wire, somebody's bench. Just put him into your lineup. I like his chances to develop as a good fantasy tight end for you this week. Last tight end we're talking about here is going to be Hayden Hurst, going against that Colts defense, ranks 23rd against opposing tight ends. You don't really know what you're going to get with Hurst this season. I mean, as a tight end who started really hot this season, he sure has just sizzled down quite a bit, and I attribute most of that probably to Bryce Young, but just like with recommending Young this week, I'm also going to be recommending Hurst. This week I can see the Panthers coming together and going for another win against this Colts team. So Hurst has the talent, he just needs the opportunity, and I believe this week could be the opportunity needed to have a fantasy relevant week. So if you're in a pinch, looking through the garbage for tight end, take a swing on Hurst this week. Now on to the Bengal Tiger start of the week. The Bengal Tiger start of the week is running back Jonathan Taylor. Taylor taking on a Panthers defense, giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Taylor isn't on a pitch count and is getting the majority of the touches for the Colts backfield. The biggest thorn in his side is Zach Moss right now. So eventually Taylor's going to shake free of Moss, and it could start this week against the Panthers defense, who seems to not have an answer that I can see for Taylor. So I can see Taylor having an ample amount of opportunity against this defense, and his opportunity alone easily makes him the Bengal Tiger start of the week.